in today. For those of you that are joining us, I think everybody here currently is returning families, but we're going to be recording this for families that couldn't be here tonight, and I'm going to send it to the new families, obviously, who couldn't be here tonight as well. So for those of you, if you're watching this in the future, my name is Casey Scarce. I'm the coordinator of enrollment and development here at Sacred Heart Catholic School. If you haven't seen me in person, you've definitely been talking to me on the phone or through email. And just thank you for taking your time out of your day to sit with us and learn more about our middle school programs for next year. So the way this is going to go, I'm going to ask everybody just keep their microphones on mute because I do expect a high volume of people to come through this evening. We're also going to start off and watch a short little video about our middle school program. So just keep your microphones muted during that portion. And then after the video, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Kenya, our principal, to talk about some protocol and changes that will be coming our way next year, especially Mr. Weatherford, our new principal, who will be joining us over the summer. And at that point, we will open it up to questions for our middle school staff about what middle school is like. And hopefully we have some students on here who can ask some really good questions too. But if not, I have gathered a lot of questions that I had gathered from other families too that couldn't be here tonight. So we'll cover all of that and hopefully have a very productive evening. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. And we'll just watch this short little video about middle school. I am Angie Crumpler. I teach 7th, 8th grade math. 7th, 8th grade science. I also teach math this year, and I have been here, I figure 21 years and teaching for 28. 6th grade science is life science, and then 7th grade is physical science, 8th grade is earth science, and those are requirements from the diocese in order that we do those. And so sometimes it'll be a traditional kind of thing where we'll talk about maybe cells and have a quiz, or then sometimes we might have a project about that instead. So,
my name is Courtney Nicholas. I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade social studies. I also teach 7th grade English. With social studies, a lot of what we do is spent moving between reading primary source texts and secondary source texts, looking at pictures, using the internet to watch videos, trying to bring in all different sources to really get a fuller picture of history rather than just sticking to the textbook. So I really try to make it cross-disciplinary. When teaching English, we are building them through grammar, we're building them through writing. We do write essays and stories and poems, do a lot of reading of fiction and nonfiction. So it's a constant swirl of hitting different skills and different areas, but also weaving them together into a cohesive whole.
I'm Sarah Gong. I normally teach technology to pre-K through 8th grade, STEM to middle school. This year, I teach middle school math. Last year, we started building our STEM lab, and we started really adding components so that students can get that hands-on piece to their instruction, and they could really apply the science and the math and the engineering components all together. And for us, we did a lot of technology with the computers. We would make our designs digitally, and then we would go next door into the new STEM lab, and while we were there, we would take those designs and see if they work in real life and apply them mathematically to see what the measurement was, what was the scientific readout, what was our result.
I will send out emails, and I have like email lists for each group, and so if I have my math class or whatever, and a lot of times even if I'm emailing the child, I'm going to email the parent, or if I'm emailing something about science fair that I'm going to do, the group, all the group of kids and all the group of parents.
I try to send out reminders and updates every so often as to what's going on through email. If parents need to contact me, that's typically the fastest and best way to get a hold of me. And if I see that there's concerns, I will also email parents to that.
Usually they move from classroom to classroom. So they start to develop that. I have to have be responsible and take the particular the things that I need with me. We expect them to keep up with their assignments, though with Google Classroom, the parents are always able to check and see what's out there and what they need to do.
I expect that my students work hard, that they try, that they put forth their best effort.
This is where we want them to start to develop the habits of they take ownership of their learning.
I just need students to be willing to be engaged and willing to be open, not too nervous or too cool to participate, because you get out of these things what you put into them. And so the more you engage, the better time you're going to have.
I love teaching middle school. I like the personalities. I like the curiosity and how they're kind of open, but they, also they want to learn. I'm big on respect. I respect them, and they respect.
Sorry.
All right. Well, I know we probably weren't able to hear the end of that little video, but it was just Mrs. Golden reiterating that we're really ready to prepare these students for after Sacred Heart, and that's what middle school is all about. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Kenya, and please bear with us. We're covering the front office too for the end of the day shift. So if you hear phones ringing or things kind of happening in the background, please forgive us. So Mrs. Kenya.
Thank you. And it's so wonderful to see a large crowd out here this evening. I know there's such an excitement coming with middle school, but there's also a lot of anxiety because there's a lot of changes that come with middle school. And those that have had this year with us, it hasn't even been our normal experience because of COVID. So we do anticipate some level of changes for next year. We have been given that variance of the 3 foot, even though we had that actually this year. Because there were so many unknowns in the beginning of the school year, we kept the 6 foot distance. So this year we have, or this coming fall, we're more comfortable. We know a little bit more about the expectations and safety precautions. And so we will put that 3 foot variance in place. That's still separate, which is a little bit unique in some of our classes, but it does allow for more to join us as a community and to be a little bit closer and to have more resources in the classroom as well. The mask mandate, the diocese has communicated to us that they're going to follow the guidance from the governor's office. So we will kind of continue to follow whatever guidance they provide, and then the diocese will update, revise, or maintain their mask policy for next school year. My biggest hope for our middle school students, and we're not ready to fully announce this, but my biggest hope for the folks is to be able to switch classrooms. This year, they've had to stay in the classroom and the teachers have rotated to them. Normally in a middle school schedule, you have 6 periods per day, and the bell rings it's approximately about an hour, and the students rotate from class to class. Now they stay as their cohort. They stay as a group of 6th graders, they stay as a group of 7th graders, they stay as a group of 8th graders, but they do rotate from class to class. That gives them a change of environment. It gives them a different seating assignment. It's a good thing to have for these kids. Our hope is that will be able to take place next year. We're not sure about the cafeteria. There's a lot of variables with the cafeteria and maintaining the cleanliness between the whole school eating through there. So we're looking at different options and things along those lines for a cafeteria for next year. Another change that is coming too is a change in leadership. Now I will still be involved. I am stepping down as principal, but I will still, my son is going into 8th grade, so I'll still be involved highly as a parent. So this is, I truly believe in the health of an organization to, leadership to change. All leaders have strengths, and to capitalize on all those strengths, you really do need to change leadership every once in a while. And the school is in a good spot, and it's a time to transition the school in a healthy way. very consciously, also being involved as a parent still, as Nicholas is still there. So, being able to help with that transition as it's appropriate. Staffing for middle school, I also want to address too. We've had some changes that happened this year. Ms. Cam, that was with us in the beginning of the year, needed to step aside for childcare reasons. You can imagine, childcare on a regular time is challenging, and then you have COVID on top of that too. It was just, that's what needed to happen. And so we looked at several different options and worked, and those from within our community and our school staff stepped up to the plate. And we're so eternally grateful for them. They know the kids, they know what their needs are, and they're both very highly qualified and intelligent teachers. I'm speaking to Ms. Crumpler and Ms. Golden, and just kind of picked up the steps and took off with that, with coming with math. We have another set of changes that will come a little bit in the middle school staffing. Some will remain the same. Ms. Golden's role will probably change back more to the technology. Ms. Crumpler will still be on staff. Ms. Nick will still be on staff. Ms. Zuniga will still be on staff. Mr. Aquila will still be on staff. We'll still have our special staffs. We're in the process of hiring for the remaining positions of middle school. We're not ready for any formal announcements. I was really hoping to be able to announce that to you all tonight, but we're still in the midst of the process, so it's not appropriate. This is just the beginning of your orientation for middle school. So do not worry, you will be well versed in who's coming in and who's going to be teaching your child and those expectations. We just don't have that full staff list for you this evening. I'm happy at this point to answer any questions that relate specifically to staffing, COVID, new principal. You can chat or you can unmute yourself. All right, well, if that's pretty good. I guess there's really not much more to say. We're still in the decision-making process. Is really at the end of the day.
We got to get warmed up, Mrs. Kenya.
Yeah, you're right.
All right. So at this point, I'm going to open it up to questions to the middle school teachers. And I know we just got a great opening question in the chat about homeroom teachers. So I think it would be great just for y'all to briefly introduce yourselves, just your name and what grade you teach or what grade this year your homeroom is. And we'll just kick it off that way. Whoever wants to start.
I'll start. I'm Angie Crumpler, and I teach right now 6th, 7th, and 8th grade science, 8th grade math. I also am the assistant principal, and I'm half of the math homeroom. I mean, half of the 8th grade homeroom teachers, because the other half is Mr. Cato. We had to separate them due to COVID. So.
And I am Courtney Nicholas, and I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade social studies. I'm also teaching 7th grade English, and I've had the 7th grade homeroom this year.
All right. I'm Sarah Golden. I'm the technology coordinator, but I've adopted the 6th grade homeroom. They're great kids. One of them's mine. And I've been teaching 6th, 7th, and some with Miss Crumpler's oversight, 8th grade math.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Aquilo.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Aquilo's here. Hi. If you wanted to introduce yourself, Mr. Aquilo.
I think everybody that's here present, I already teach their student, but my name is Mr. Aquilo. I teach religion for middle school, and that's the only thing that I'm pretty confident about for next year. I don't know.
Our goal is to have music back in the curriculum too, so.
Yeah, so for those of you that are watching this in the future, if you're a new family, Mr. Aquilo is normally our music teacher, but this year due to COVID, we had to unfortunately restrict those music classes. So those are the nutshell of our teaching staff in middle school. Like Mrs. Kenya said, for everyone, information. I plan on having more open houses and new family orientation over the summer. I really want those last minute policies and changes to be solidified before I start communicating that information, because I don't want to go back and be like, oh, actually, it's not that, it's this. And as restrictions are easing up, I'm very hopeful that we can hopefully get people back on campus to especially meet Mr. Weatherford in person. I'm very hopeful for that. So please be on the lookout for those communications. It will definitely be over the summer once we kind of get a little break after this crazy year. Everybody just take a breath and then we'll refresh to look for next year. So once again, please feel free to unmute yourself and interrupt me at any time or use the chat. I'm going to start off with just an opening question that I think everybody is probably curious about, especially the new students coming into middle school, just about the uniforms that we might have changed, or changes in uniforms, and especially for the new students, that might be new for them too. So I don't know if Mrs. Kenya wants to take that question.
I can do that. So our uniform policy is pretty much the same from 5th grade to 6th grade, other than you can wear a green shirt. It's a hunter green shirt opposed to just a white. So a lot of kids will take advantage of that. The ladies are welcome to wear skirts. At this point, plaid skirts. We do ask that the skirts are purchased from Land's End, and we have a very specific plaid through Land's End. All ladies and gentlemen can wear black shorts or black pants. White shirts are still acceptable. And we also have solid red, white, or black sweaters or sweatshirts. We ask that there are no hoods. 8th graders earn the privilege of being able to dress down every Friday. So they get a little bit more leniency in terms of uniform. We also ask that we have white socks or black socks, and that we have accessories to a minimum, meaning that they are, not excessive in their shoes, their earrings, and those kinds of things as well. I still have the floor here, and I think it would be beneficial. I know one question that 5th graders have, what does my actual day look like? So this year, our students, and usually in years past even, once they enter into the building, they go straight to their homeroom. Homeroom's a quiet time to work on homework. There's a little bit of time to get yourself kind of together and organized for the day. Again, this year they've stayed in that classroom all year long. Usually after they do the prayer and the pledge, students will go to, the bell will ring and they'll go to their first period class. And we're hoping that that will be the case for next year as well. So after they have first period and then they have second period, the bells indicate those things, that they stay with their classes. Then after a second period, they have a break. And usually the break, this year we have break as a group outside, which has been really nice. And that might be one of those practices that we adopt now after COVID. In years past, they would kind of go into the hallway and socialize a little bit there. Gives them a chance to kind of stretch their legs and move a little bit. Then you have 4th and 5th period. You have lunch. They have another little recess break time right after lunch. They go to the playground. Then they have 6th period, or did they have 5th period and 6th period? Used to be that 6th period and 7th period. So is lunch after 4th period? Okay, so after 4th period, you have lunch, then you have 5th and 6th period to round out your day. They keep their core classes, and then we like punch in PE and wellness and music and art and library and technology, all kind of get put within the weekly schedule.
Thank you, Mrs. Kenya. Oh, there's another question in the chat. How long will the children have to move from classes? Will there be enough time to get books from the lockers, or will they carry all their subjects and books? That's a great question.
Mrs. Crumpler, how about you answer that one?
Unmute me. Usually it's about 3 minutes from class to class, and they have enough time to get everything that they need. So we, of course, a lot of times at break time, that's when we ask them to go to the restroom if we have a normal, year of break at that point, and they're kind of up and moving. But in the past, it's been 3 minutes with the bell schedule, and it's been plenty of time to get what they need. And of course, we're very lenient for the first 2 weeks. You know, I forgot something, and we usually go back and get it. And then we get into a routine, and they're great once they get into the routine.
Thank you, Ms. Crumpler.
I
And I
have a
wanna-
question.
Oh, yes, please.
I wanted to comment, first of all, thank you for doing this. This is amazing. Second of all, Grayson has really enjoyed Miss Rayal's class this year. And I wonder if there will be any consideration that type of class will be incorporated into specials again next year.
Yes. So the game plan for next year is that we have library and you have guidance, and you will have one or the other each week. So you'll have guidance one week and then you'll have library another week. So yes, you will still be on staff. She'll still be available for students to meet with individually, and she'll still interact with the kids as well.
So for those of you that are new families watching this, Ms. Rayal is our, what is her exact title, Mrs. Kenya?
Coordinator of Social and Emotional Health.
Perfect. Thank you. And she has been such a huge help this year, not only with helping direct students from class to class, but she has held classes with all of our students across our school. And we also will have library. And I know, are we still searching for that staff member too, or Ms. Rayal will still cover for that?
No, we have that hire. I don't know if we're officially ready to make that, but that hire has been in place. So we're excited about that.
Perfect. Thank you, Daniel. That was a great question.
I have a question. Thank you. Good to see everyone. So I'm understanding English is not there yet, right? For 6th grade, we don't have an English teacher for next year?
Correct.
Okay, so that's the one that we're hiring. It's not finalized.
Yes, we're kind of adjusting. We've had several different interviews and kind of, it's like, you know, moving pieces apart and looking at everyone's strengths and putting the pieces together. But yes, no, that piece has not been defined yet.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Well, while we're waiting, I hate awkward silence. So I'm going to be a filler tonight. I had to cut a lot of information, a lot of really good information from those videos, because I sat down with each of the main teachers. So I want to start, Ms. Crumpler. I had to cut out a lot about the projects that you like to do and the experiments that you normally like to do, especially science fair. I know that's a big thing in middle school. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about how you incorporate those into your curriculum.
That's great. I do like project-based more than I like testing and, you know, just doing the content that way. I will say this has been a difficult year because that's what I missed the most, is being able to do those things. So this year we did do science fair, but we did it, and winners are coming. I finally have all the judges and so that will be announced relatively soon. We did it in where they did the experiment at home, but they did a virtual type presentation, and we added audio, and they put it on the slides, and it actually worked out great. I think that I had them do a reflection paper afterwards, especially the ones who'd done it both ways. You know, what are the pros and cons of doing it this way? What do you prefer and why? And overwhelmingly, they liked doing it the way we did it this year. So that might be something that we continue to do. And it gave them a chance to see, you know, we did a lot of it in the classroom, but it gave them a chance to see working through a project and due dates for this part of it and due dates for this part of it. So that's one. I always like to do things with, I like to compare a cell to something. Like in class, we compare it to a city, and then I have them compare it to, I've had restaurants and haunted houses. And so they do the organelles and how it compares to the parts of those things. I'm trying a density lab with 7th grade right now. They're telling you that pre-COVID days, it probably took a day and a half, and now we're on day 3. So, but that's the way I prefer to do it. It's just at this point, we're doing the best we can.
I think you're doing a great job with what you have, Ms. Crumpler. Another question that was in the chat, Mrs. Kenya, is about a math teacher. So maybe you can address that too.
Yes, no, we're still in the hiring process for math and parts of English. So we're still working on that. Have had some really great interviews. Again, it's about putting pieces and people in their positions of strength. So I wish I had that information for you tonight. And as soon as I do, I promise I will give it to you. I know that's anxiety producing, not knowing all those pieces coming into middle school. I myself have a child in the middle school piece too. So, you know, I'm going to make sure that it's the best, strongest staff that you guys have.
I have another question.
Oh, of course, Dana. Yes,
I know
ma'am.
that there's still a lot up in the air as far as what restrictions may or may not be eased. If restrictions are eased somewhat, do you feel like there's a possibility that we could potentially return to clubs and after school activities and things like that?
I most sincerely hope so. I think that we should be able to get some after school activities rolling with proper restrictions in place. And so I think, you know, this year being so far now that we're really kind of getting things eased up and a little bit more comfortability and the staff is vaccinated, you're getting to that point, but it's so late in the year, it seems silly to kind of start things up this year. But in my mind, we're going to go in that direction.
Definitely. We have really missed those this year, and you can tell a difference for the kids too. They really miss that.
And we are always looking for volunteers to help with those programs too. So just FYI.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So my next question while we wait, Mrs. Golden, this is for you. I had to cut out a lot about the STREAM program and parts of what the middle school students will learn, which I think is very important for them to learn about JavaScript and coding and things that they need to learn not only for high school, but for the collegiate level as well.
Right. Well, my class kind of was split into two classes last year because we brought in the what we would think of as STEM, but because we're a Catholic school, we can kind of add to that, and we actually do what's called STREAM. So instead of just science, technology, we can also do religion, and then with the engineering, art, and technology. So it was a little more all-encompassing. My middle school students, and even some of my younger students started with coding, but the middle school did kind of get to go further with it. So they learned some web page design, HTML. They started with a little bit of JavaScript. They did a lot of graphic design. They got a little too good at it. They made their own memes. And then as far as the STEM part, we started with using the computer to engineer things. And then we turned around and built them to see if they worked in real life, if our models could actually do what we thought they could do virtually. And so all that builds into being able to use those tools in high school and college, maybe even in a career field, because all those things, they are kind of the way of the future. These are the job opportunities in the fields that these kids are going to be around as they move forward in life.
Absolutely. And Mrs. Golden has done such a wonderful job, not only this past year, but I mean, she really got us through this past year with COVID and moving everything virtually. So we're very, very blessed to have her, and your students are too. So while we wait, Miss Nick, my next question is for you. I had to cut out a lot of cool things about the guest speakers that you bring in. And one thing that I cut out that I was really sad about was the grammar mystery thing that you do for English. So if you could talk a little bit more about your curriculum and how you incorporate those things too.
Okay, so this year has been a bit of a bummer in that, as Miss Crumpler said, it's so much harder to do a lot more of these hands-on projects and getting students directly involved in project learning, which is really how I like to build my social studies curriculum. That being said, I have had several virtual guest speakers come in throughout the year. I had an archaeologist come speak with 6th and 7th grade and talk about her field. I had a professor talk with 7th grade about World War I, who is an expert. He's a Polish historian and an expert on World War I. I had my husband came in and spoke at the beginning of the year about, my husband's an attorney, and spoke about rights and what, the First Amendment and applications of that. And he's actually coming in Friday this week to speak with them now about the judicial branch and maybe do a little mini mock trial with them. I have a project that, hopefully in the future when things are back to more normal, that builds a CSI component, then it uses the science side, and then it builds that into the judicial branch, and we go through and collect evidence and then put on a trial and do all of the aspects. And so really try to be interdisciplinary in the way that Steep Stream is interdisciplinary. On the economics side of things for 8th grade of civics and economics, and I'm working on pieces to maybe do like kind of a small business academy. I'm working on all of those aspects, and with grammar in English, I have a book called Giggles in the Middle, and over the course of 3 potential years, and you can, make it go a little faster or slower as you want. It tells a mystery story about horribly hard middle school. And every day there's a sentence from it or a couple sentences from it that the grammar is all messed up. And so we go through and we edit the grammar, and it embeds vocabulary, which has been a great cross kind of curricular with the actual vocabulary program that we have, is that words have then shown up and they're going, oh, we know this word, and then seeing it as it really would be used in context. And so it allows them to exercise their editing skills in a very real way by actively applying it daily. And so they've gotten very fast at it, and they can tell me, where things need to go and why they need to go there. And that's let us now get into some kind of finer points of that, because editing, especially in a world of, text messages, is really hard.
Thank you, Ms. Nick. Mrs. Kenya, there were a couple of questions in the chat about drop off and dismissal. Maybe you could address about next year, just about logistics.
Yes, and by all means, if you need to hop off the meeting, if you don't have any questions, that's fine. You will get a recording of it and you can fast forward to where you need to go with that too. Dismissal, in years past, the students have all gone outside for dismissal in the grassy area where they have snack right now, and they look for their cars and just kind of dismiss from there. This year, we're calling them from homerooms as we've done in the past. No final decisions have been made about how we'll conduct dismissal. It will still be at the 3:15 time though, which is a little bit later on, and we still ask that you pick up at that 3:15 time. As if you come at 2:45 or 3 o'clock and you sit in the car circle line, it just quickly can back up very quickly, and then we can't get the younger kids out and through the cycle. Morning drop-off will be determined on what the screening process is, and that screening process is a diocesan decision and not a site-based decision. How we conduct the screening process is a site-based decision, but if we have to screen everyone coming in, that requires everyone to be in homeroom. It requires our screeners to be available in the 3 different entrances, and we don't have the staffing and the wherewithal to get everyone in here and with that morning part. But those are all going to be decisions here very soon that we'll hopefully make, and hopefully we'll be able to get into those pieces and getting ourselves back into more of a normal schedule. That's our goal, is as normal as possible as soon as possible.
Correct. So if you're a new family joining us, just for dismissal references, our lower elementary school, they dismiss at 2:45. So families that have both elementary school and middle school students, our middle school students are still in class for like another half hour. So really, if you get here at 2:45 and you're getting your youngest, and then you're gonna have to wait half an hour for your oldest. So that's why we have it split split like that. So we always ask that you come at the later time to get your oldest child so you can get everybody at one time. And it does get backed up. I work car circle. It gets crazy.
And she'll tell you to move. And just to
I
kind of
will.
elaborate a little bit more on the morning drop off, because of the, everyone was in their cohorts and having to stay in their cohorts, having to start homeroom as soon as possible, and as soon as logistically possible time we could start that was 7:45. And so in the past, that morning drop off, the kids are all at a different place, monitored, and then they dismissed to homeroom. So that will be determined if we'll be able to do that or not. A lot on screening and cohorts and how that will all work.
Right. Great. So I don't know who wants to answer this since we've all kind of taken a responsibility for it, but just about the math curriculum, because I think that is one part of middle school that we really try to get our students ready for high school. So I don't know if Ms. Crumpler or Ms. Golden or both just kind of want to go briefly over the math curriculum for middle school. Ms. Crumpler didn't look excited.
I think I just got volunteered.
I did
Sure.
unmute to help you.
Yeah. Basically, sixth grade math is a step up from fifth grade, just in the same way that they progress through the other grades. But when they get to seventh grade math, it's more of a pre-algebra type experience where they're getting ready to do more advanced math concepts to get them ready, because in eighth grade at this point, and it may change in the future, but at this point there's two options. There's an eighth grade math option and there's a algebra option for high school credit, and that will let them kind of start a step ahead if they're ready, because math is developmental and not everybody is ready to take algebra in eighth grade. They will be when they're ready, but not everyone is ready at that time. And so it's not really a step back, because they continue to progress in their math curriculum through eighth grade.
Right. I taught math 8 and have since the beginning of the year. I took on the algebra midway through. And it's a continuation of the pre-algebra, reinforcing those skills that are going to be necessary for high school, for them to go on. And with the ability to take, with the classes the way they are in high school, sometimes they can double up on math. So it really is, as Ms. Golden said, it's very much a developmental thing. It's when you're ready and when you're ready to do those things. So.
And that's to be determined. And we have been blessed with the high schools going to the block scheduling, which really eases that need to be ahead of math and gives kids a little bit more time. And so that you can still get all of your math in appropriately with the block schedule, because now you have just more semesters to take more classes and it doubles it up. So there's not as neat and as strong as a push to try and get as fast as you are, as high as you can in the middle school level. I do want to quickly address though, because it's just something that we've been hearing about in the news, is the Pathways Initiative that they have in math. And there's some controversy around it. It is such in the infancy of it, so it's really hard to understand, but they're looking at lessening, there's kind of a chunk from 7th grade to 10th grade where you take all of the maths, and it's just a path from what I understand, and where the kids are kind of taking all of the general math courses and getting like streams of algebra and geometry and even putting more into the data analysis piece of it too, and the statistics into it, and then going into the more advanced placements courses the junior and senior year. From the literature that I've read, there will still be an advanced track. How that will impact the middle school math and what that will look like for us is I still don't really anticipate much of a change needed, especially in the years that your children will be in middle school, as this is not, it's under review until 2025. So our track has that 6th grade general math, and then you have the 7th grade pre-algebra. And 7th grade, I'm going to be honest, is sometimes that really challenging year to be most candid because it changes from that basic math to those pre-algebra concepts. And some kids get it and go, and some children need that a little bit more reinforcement. And that's why we have that extra time in 8th grade too, and just don't force everyone to go into that algebra track, because if you advance before you're ready, it's really, it doesn't help you. And you have the time with the block scheduling. So just take it to understand it and to work through it as best as you can. And then 8th grade with whatever track that you choose to go with in that too. Any more questions on that? I think that I hope I covered.
You made me feel better, and I'm not even taking math, so.
There's
I was
time.
not a
and-
math fan growing up, so. All right. My next question, and kind of my last question, is mainly, I don't know if you wanted to touch on things that the students can get ready for over the summer, especially our students coming in from 5th grade to 6th grade, because I know it's a new part of the building, it's a new transition too. So things that they can prep for to get ready for next year.
Well, I'll start a little bit just because I was down in 5th grade today and we were talking about this, and they have so many questions, and I get it. So they will go down to middle school here sooner than later. They're going to pop in, they're going to look in the classrooms, they're going to see, they're going to talk to the teachers. It's been very different because usually we're all together all throughout the year, but this year we're not. So they have a lot of questions, and we'll take the time to answer all of their questions, as much as how do I get to my locker? And there's a lot of, unknowns. And so being able to go physically there, work through all those things, this is what could happen, or this is what will happen. We'll take the time to do all of those things. And academically preparing over the summer, I will say first and foremost, read. Make sure that you read. And we're going to look at what summer programs we have and communicate that to our parents to kind of really help students foster that. And then mathematically, personally, I think any kind of the just over-the-counter type of little practice books coming from 5th grade going into 6th grade, just to kind of keep those skills in your mind, and specifically with the fractions and decimals and any kind of real life application of math that you can find. Let's go to the grocery store. I got $50. Okay, guys, let's estimate, make sure that I've got that in there. What are my taxes going to be? Oh, look, that sweater's 20% off. How do I figure out what that is? Okay, I need to tip this waiter. How do I figure out how to do that? All of those skills make it authentic. And when something is authentic, it's much more easier to grasp.
Absolutely. And I do apologize. I have another question that I know we didn't talk about. Middle school Spanish. I know that's a big part of getting ready for high school too. So if you wanted to address that as well.
I guess that would be me again, huh? Mrs. Zuniga's not on the call with us this evening. She has a second job that she works on. She nightly works as a dance instructor. So it's kind of difficult for her to do both in there, but she has been with us on and off for several years, and was with us this year, and we anticipate her being with us next year. She has a great rapport with the kids. Our kids come out of Sacred Heart like ready to take on the world with their Spanish skills, because we are only allowed to issue high school credits that are issued at the public middle schools. So public middle school will issue a Algebra 1 credit, and they will issue a Spanish 1 credit. So that's all we can do. But our kids pretty much are ready for Spanish 3. And we've had students that have come from our program, and if they go to a private and they can just take a cold test to see where they go, that's where they qualify for. So our kids come out and they're ready to go. So they take Spanish in 6th grade, they take Spanish in 7th grade, and then they get their high school credit in 8th grade. And it's helpful because that gets a credit out of the way for them going into high school, and one less adjustment.
Thank you, Mrs. Kenya. Any other questions for our middle school staff or for Mrs. Kenya about next year? All right. Well, I'm going to start wrapping up this evening. So any of my middle school teachers, any last minute things you'd like to say before we wrap up tonight?
I'm looking forward to seeing everybody who's returning, and I'm looking forward to meeting everybody who will be joining us.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I said in the video, I love middle schoolers. I love teaching middle school. It's what makes me get up and go every day. And especially this past year, it's, you know, when I started this past year, I was there were tears. I haven't had tears since the first couple of years, but that's what makes me get up and keep going. And I'm excited to see what happens, and hopefully a little more normalcy, but.
Middle school is a fun time. It's a time of exploration for students. They, learn a lot about themselves as individuals. They learn a lot about themselves as learners. And it's a safe space to do that in our environment, where 45 to 50 kids intentionally. So we keep them and they can have more comfort in learning in that environment. They can have more comfort in exploring who they are and trying new things in that environment too. So we have great kids, love every single one of them and their smiling faces. And this year especially, it's been, you do see the joy and appreciate them being here with us. And I think that makes it all enjoyable. They're good group of kids.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to wrap everything up. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to sit with us and just even see a face for your teachers for next year. I know this year has been extremely hard on all of us, and Miss Hall and I and Miss Nicholas were just talking about how, we're all really tired and the kids are tired and the teachers are tired and we've all been taking on double shifts, but we made it work. And we had a successful year in person and virtually. And we're so excited to be back together next year as well. I know a lot of changes are coming. I will be here over the summer. If you have any questions, I'll be putting together orientations and hopefully open houses. And like I said, once we get all these tiny little details about dismissal and warnings and back to school stuff, I will communicate that to you as much as I can. I just got a notification my internet connection was unstable. So Mrs. Kenya, just watch me. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Once again, we're so excited to have you back next year. And if you're a new family, welcome to Sacred Heart. And we'll hopefully all be together in person over the summer. So thank you all so much. Really appreciate it.